With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey. This is a bunch of stuff, deal.
What does that mean, a bunch of stuff?
Well, it means it's simply inaccurate.
It's Irish.
Exactly, it is. We Irish call it malarkey.
Thanks for the translation.
No,
Okay.
We Irish call it malarkey.
You know what this is? Yeah, and I reserve this word for those rare instances when it's truly deserved. This is malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Direct from the King Spring Studios in beautiful Smyrna, Georgia. This is a bunch of malarkey. Now, here's your host, the incredible Charlie McMahon.
Thank you, Scott Shannon, for that introduction, and thank all of you for tuning in to yet another episode of A Bunch of Malarkey. And it's a very hot and sweltery Smyrna, Georgia, and King Spring studio, just like two-thirds of the country going through this heat wave, so to speak. Now, I have to make fun a little bit of the North, because they do it to us. You know, I'm a native New Yorker, you all know that. And whenever there was a little snow down in the South, and we got an inch of snow down here, everybody makes fun. Oh, the whole city shuts down, half an inch of snow, ah, ha, ha, all these memes. I got to do the same thing, folks. Now, I know the heat index is very high up there, in the hundreds. But, a couple of days, you stay inside, you drink some lemonade, you put the air conditioner on, just like you say to us when the snow comes. Oh, they can't drive in an inch of snow. We don't have the equipment. So I have to poke a little fun at the Northeast for a couple of hot days, and it's like paralysis up there. So thought I'd throw some shade back at my old stomping ground. So hopefully we'll all get through this heat wave. I know some cooler temperatures are on the way, so hopefully we will see some relief as July winds down. Can you believe that? We are just about a week and 10 days left or so of the month of July, if you can believe that. Time is flying. We're coming up on our year anniversary of the Bunch of Malarkey podcast, so we'll have a special year celebration coming up in about 3 or 4 weeks, so stay tuned for that. Now, as I mentioned, it's hot out. So with the heat, people don't want to cook. So they'll do anything. They'll barbecue outside. But even that, in 115-degree heat index, people aren't wanting to cook outside. So a lot of people going out to eat because they just don't want the oven on in their house, the stove. They don't want to stand outside barbecuing. A lot of people just run through the fast food line or get some, go to a restaurant or go get some fast food. But if you go into Taco Bell, folks, you may get more than you bargained for because a woman had a wacky encounter up in New York. Now, as you know, Taco Bell has more than, I'd say, a dozen different add-ons for its orders of nachos. So you can customize a basic plate of tortilla chips and nacho cheese with everything from different blends of shredded cheese, jalapenos, French fries even. They even put Fritos on the nachos now. So you can get anything you want on these nachos. Weirdly, the chain doesn't actually allow customers to order a nacho cheese handle. So this order was too much to handle for a particular customer. A woman in Fishkill, New York, is claiming that she found what appears to be a doorknob in her Taco Bell nacho order last week. Eve Saint claims she ordered nachos from the Tex-Mex chain, but when she got home and unwrapped her meal, there was an extra item inside. Saint, who originally thought the foreign object was a doorknob, found out later it was actually a nacho cheese handle that had somehow made it into a food. So I guess there's a handle on the nacho cheese machine, I guess like a lever where you press down and the cheese comes out, but it found its way into her nachos. I found out it's the pump of a cheese dispenser, said Saint. They hung up on me and told me I was lying when she called Taco Bell and just offered me free nachos, Saint said. In a photo Saint shared on Facebook last Friday, the handle is seen dressed in the nacho toppings, suggesting that it accidentally was placed in the meal before the sauces and toppings were added. Some of those commenting on her photo accused Saint of faking the photo, but she insists it's real. How's she going to fake it? She's going to undo the nachos and then put everything back on the handle? Come on, folks. Saint said she had to call the Taco Bell location several times before being able to speak with someone who took the claim seriously. In a statement, Taco Bell said they were investigating the situation. Quote, we take this very seriously. The franchise that owns and operates this location is looking into this matter and strives to make things right with the customer, end quote. So if you're thinking you may not want to cook because of the heat, beware of where you go, because you just might get what you bargained for. I couldn't imagine. Now, I've heard stories about people's fingernails, and I've even heard of teeth. I've heard of all weird things, but I've never heard. How do you miss that as the food preparer? The whole handle of the nachos falls in the nachos, and then you just cover it with cheese and all the sour cream, all the toppings. I mean, I just don't get it. I really don't get it. So with the heat, folks, as you know, like a couple weeks ago, I'm a big baseball watcher. I have baseball on every night. So when nights that there's no game, I try to find other things to watch. Now, I'm not a network TV guy. I usually stream stuff. I just watched the Stranger Things, season 3. I enjoyed that on Netflix. So I try to watch things on the streaming services, Amazon Prime. We had Todd on here from Haunted State. I enjoy that program. So there are some streaming shows that I enjoy. Now, when the All-Star break came, there was like a week without baseball, so I'm going through withdrawals, looking for shit to watch. I watched the Stranger Things in like a day and a half. I binge-watched the whole season. That's what's funny nowadays. These people, these shows, they take them a year and a half to film, and we watch them in like, a few hours and a few bag of chips, and we're done with the whole season of, a year and a half of filming. We're done with it in a couple hours. But I stumbled on, and I used to watch this show, Hoarders, and I think it's on A&E, but there's another show called Hoarding Buried Alive, and they had like 10 seasons on Amazon Prime, and I started binge-watching this shit. And I found a lot of it disturbing. I mean, I can understand that people collect stuff and don't want to part with it. That's somewhat valuable. I get that. But people who haven't thrown garbage out in 10 years, that's just everything that they ever consumed, food, 10 years worth of garbage in their house. It's just very disturbing. So I even got my wife, who doesn't like TV at all, to watch some of these with me. And we just couldn't believe the relationship these people have with their items. So away from this hoarding show, I stumbled on an article the other day and a video which I found very disturbing about a weird relationship a woman has with a chandelier. Now, let me read this story to you, folks. A woman who is engaged, now listen to that, she's engaged to a 91-year-old chandelier, just had her arm tattooed with a picture of the partner of her dreams. Amanda Liberty, 34, from England, had her tattoo designed by star of tattoo fixers Alice Perrin. Identifying as objectum sexual, Miss Liberty is currently engaged to the chandelier called Lumiere, and said it was the love at first sight after spotting the chandelier on eBay. The chandelier was originally born in Germany 91 years ago and is 28 inches wide. The tattoo took 1.5 hours to complete, and Ms. Liberty said she felt nervous about the needle before getting inked. She went on to say, as soon as I saw Lumiere on eBay, I knew immediately that she was the one for me, and it was love at first sight. Or could you say love at first light? She was based in Germany, and although I knew it would be tricky to get her here to England, I knew I needed to find a way to make her mine. I couldn't stop thinking about her and how beautiful she was. She had such a beautiful shape, and I could feel really amazing energy coming from her. After buying the chandelier, I patiently waited for her to be imported into the UK, and after 6 days of waiting, she was finally in my arms. She had been disassembled for her own safety, but once I put all her pieces together and she settled into her new home, our relationship just went from strength to even more strength. A friend of mine actually named her Lumiere because of the film Beauty and the Beast, after the candlestick who comes alive. Last Valentine's Day, I proposed to her to signify our long-lasting love. I hope at some point we will have a commitment ceremony. I haven't been engaged before, so it's a very new and exciting thing for me. Ms. Liberty says she prefers to spend her nights cuddled up to Jewel, a portable chandelier that she happily tucks into the bed with her. And I have a picture of that I'm going to post on the Facebook page. Lumiere and Jewel are part of a 25-strong chandelier collection that Amanda owns. And even though she is only engaged to Lumiere, she considers herself to be in an open relationship with the other chandeliers. She identifies herself as objectum sexual, which means that she's attracted sexually to objects rather than people. Amanda first fell in love with a drum kit at age 14 before falling in love with the Statue of Liberty years after, who she affectionately refers to as Libby. Amanda, who changed her surname in 2010 to Liberty, has traveled to the USA a total of 6 times to meet Lady Liberty. Her living room is adorned with memorabilia dedicated to the monument, and despite insisting that she still loves Libby, the long distance between them left her very lonely. So, you couldn't be with the Statue of Liberty, so you settle for the next best thing, a chandelier. She now happily resides with her many chandeliers at home, many of whom she has restored to pristine condition. Amanda went on to say, "None of my chandeliers are jealous of each other. They all understand that I love them all, and all for their different personalities." So this is we had Jenny back on in December or November about polyamorous relationships. So she has kind of a poly relationship with these chandeliers. Amanda went on to say that she loves kissing and cuddling Lumiere, but I sleep with Jewel every night because she is portable and very nice to cuddle. I've always loved the look of chandeliers, and when I saw my first chandelier, Luna, it was love at first sight. You cannot control who you fall in love with, and things just went from there. I spend my spare time restoring old and broken chandeliers to their former glory, which I really enjoy, as I could tell they enjoy the attention that they receive. And her dream job would be to work in a public building such as Buckingham Palace, looking after the grand chandeliers that they have there. Despite her unique relationships, Amanda insists that her feelings are completely natural and she's happy with her companions. Amanda said that people often can't understand that this is just a natural orientation and that she can find the beauty in objects and can use their energy. Amanda wants others to see how happy the chandeliers make her and how much they've enriched her life. She went on to say, "I'm not hurting anyone by entering into a relationship with them. I am simply just following my heart." So that is a very interesting story. Now, I saw a lot of people attached to their possessions on this, hoarder show, but nothing like an engagement to one of them. So, folks, if that doesn't transition us into our favorite segment, I don't know what can.
Mutant of the Week.
Now, we had a landslide victory last week where our Carpool Fool, the woman who put the inflatable pool on the top of her car and instead of tying it down, put her 2 daughters in it, she beat the farting felon, the guy who was hiding from police and let out a loud fart and got caught. It was a landslide victory, 83% to 17%. So our Carpool Fool wears our Mutant of the Week crown until a new one is voted on by all of you. And here are those nominees. But before that, in case you're new to the show, where do you vote for the Mutant of the Week? Well, you go to our Facebook page, A Bunch of Malarkey. While you're there, like the page, write us a review, and interact with us about all of our weekly postings. But our Mutant of the Week poll, it goes up on Tuesday mornings bright and early before the sun rises. Before you even get up for work, that poll will be there. And it ends morning to midday on Saturday, depending on the week and when we're taping the next episode. So you have 5 full days to vote for one of these 2 mutants. Mutant number 1. And we have to go down to the Sunshine State, because it wouldn't be a week without a Florida mutant. A would-be car thief in Florida was thwarted by his own inability to drive a stick shift. You heard that right. According to the Orange County Sheriff's Office, Jalen Alexander, 25 years old, tried to steal an elderly man's car while the man was putting his walker into the trunk. Alexander allegedly attacked the man, jumped into the car, and locked the doors. But when he tried to drive away, he stalled multiple times. Alexander had to abandon the vehicle. Authorities say he stole another car, which presumably was a automatic transmission, but eventually was arrested across town. Alexander has been charged with carjacking, battery on a person above the age of 65, and grand theft of a motor vehicle. So let's call him the Shady Shifter. So the Shady Shifter, the guy who tried to steal a car but couldn't drive a stick shift, is our first mutant nominee out of the state of Florida. And for our second nominee, we have to go north of the border into Canada, where a case of beer has left a Canadian driver in trouble with authorities. And not because he drank it before or while driving. According to the Ontario Provincial Police, otherwise known as OPP, because you know me, a man was charged with failing to ensure he was charged with failing to ensure child properly seat-belted because he used a 30-pack of beer as a booster seat for his 2-year-old. The 22-year-old man in question was pulled over in the North Perth area in Ontario. He was found to be using a case of beer as a booster seat underneath his toddler with no child seat in the vehicle. To make matters more suspect, the traffic stop occurred at 2:30 a.m. Although the child was not harmed, the cops still charged the man. In Ontario, Canada, all kids 8 years and younger who weigh less than 80 pounds and are smaller than 4'9" must sit in a child seat or booster seat by law. After the driver was reprimanded, the cops helped remedy the situation by bringing him a child seat for the drive home. With child safety on the mind, the OPP social media accounts used the incident to highlight the requirements for children riding in cars. Furthermore, OPP took to Facebook to post about an upcoming car seat clinic in the area. So if you're driving through Ontario or anywhere really, don't use a case of beer as a booster seat. So let's call him the beer boosting blockhead. So we've got Canada versus Florida. We've got the Shady Shifter versus the beer boosting blockhead. Be sure to make your voices heard on our Facebook page. Mutant of the Week poll goes up on Tuesday and ends on Saturday. So, folks, we are in the grips of a heat wave, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. So, a lot of, depending on where you live in the country, summer's almost over here for the kids in the South. They get out of school before Memorial Day, and they are back to school in about a week or two, usually the first week of August. I know up north it's after Labor Day. So summer travel season is pretty much in full swing because you have the people here in the South who the kids go back to school in a week or two. They want to get their final vacation in. People up north are in mid-season form, going on vacation. I see it all over Facebook. Everybody's traveling. And with traveling, especially if you're not doing a driving trip, a road trip, you have to get on an airplane. You have to go to an airport. Nowhere, I don't think anywhere on planet Earth are there more mutants than in airports or on airplanes. I mean, come on, folks. And that's today's topic, airplane etiquette and how to avoid being that guy while traveling. You know who that guy is, folks. We're going to go over that. So if you really want to know a person, folks, pay attention to how they treat wait staff. You go out with friends or a date, or how they talk to their parents, or how they act when they fly or on an airplane. Nowhere on the planet, with the exception of maybe a subway train, do they pack so many people in a small space with the potential to act like total mutants. Yet somehow, we manage to get by in most cases. In 2018, airlines that served the U.S. carried almost 1.1 billion passengers, which is a record high. Now, there's got to be a secret to sloshing 1 billion people through terminals, through security lines, and on airplanes without utter chaos breaking out. And that's helped. We talked about laws last week. You got to put laws into place sometimes to control different things. We went over the 4 reasons for laws, and then we went over a lot of nonsense laws. But there is a complex, unspoken, unwritten social code that nearly everybody observes. The non-mutants observe these unwritten rules. You know, much like in restaurants or anywhere else, most people get it, okay? Then there are the nail-clipping, baby cursing, pajama wearing, 9/11 joke making, full bottle of water in the TSA line carrying dumbasses. Look around on your next flight, folks, and you're sure to spot one. Oblivious that he or she is clobbering the people with their backpack, unwrapping a hot fish sandwich on the plane, relaxing his seat back to full recline the second you hit 10,000 feet. You've all been there, folks, and maybe you've even been one of these mutants. Some of these transgressions, well, they're obvious. Others, ambiguous, moral gray zones you yourself have struggled with. So here they are, folks, the most annoying things we have to deal with on airplanes, and the actual proper way of doing things while flying. At the end of this episode, I wanted you to ask yourself, have I ever been that guy? Have I ever been the mutant? So I want you to ask yourself, maybe not full, maybe you've not done all of these things, but have you done any of these things we're going to talk about? Let's start in the airport. One thing you should never do is ask someone if you could skip or cut them on the security line. It's amazing how much better the airport experience is if you're not that guy or woman who acts like they're going into labor in the back of a cab because you're in such a hurry. Sure, you could cut it close and run up to the security checkpoint sweating, near tears, begging to cut the line. But then you unwittingly force someone into a spiraling moral dilemma. Should they say yes and avoid looking like a total dick? Or should they take a stand against you, the inconsiderate asshole? And do they have the authority to make that call either way? Thereby, speaking for all the other people in line, you'll also be cutting. If you're at the point of panic, get an agent involved, and better yet, get up early and be on time, folks. Yeah, I know there's traffic, there's different things, but if you know you have a flight, your ass should be at that airport at least 2 hours before it takes off. I'm sorry. You never know how long the security line is going to be. You never know. Use these Waze and Google Map apps. They tell you how long it's going to take to get to the airport. Plan, folks. Don't be that guy. Now, don't get upset. People, I see it on Facebook all the time. The TSA guy or woman was rude to me. Think about what they deal with, folks. Despite repeating themselves on a near constant loop all day, there are still assholes who don't put their laptop in a separate bin, who they half-assedly push their bag through the line with their foot, while they're watching Hulu on their smartphone, and then act surprised that they have to take their shoes off. The only thing more amateur, taking umbrage against a rude agent who's just doing his or her job. It should go without saying, don't argue with these people. Just do what you're supposed to do. Be prepared, be ready, get through the line, and make it a smooth experience for the rest of us. Another one, you get through the gate, you have to run to the bathroom. Don't ask a stranger to watch your stuff. You got to pee, you got to run to Starbucks. Take your shit with you, folks. I know it's not the most sanitary area in these public bathrooms, but, don't leave people with your stuff. You're asking me to watch your shit. You seem very nice, but I cannot accept responsibility for your personal shit. I barely got myself here. What if my name gets called? What if we start boarding? I don't know. But this thing they repeatedly announce over the loudspeaker, don't watch shit for other people or for strangers. Now, guy could say, watch my bomb. You don't know what the hell's in this case. Don't ask people, and don't watch shit for people. Now, you get through the boarding. Now you're on the boarding process. You're getting on the plane. You can't get mad if someone cuts you during boarding. Accept the boarding process as an absurdist attempt to bring order to chaos and just go with it, folks. Let's be honest. We're all going to get to Louisville or wherever we're going at the same speed at the same time. So does it really matter? You got your seat assignment. Does it matter? This should go without saying. I've spoken about it in offices and other places. No hot food of any kind on an airplane, especially if it's from a fast food joint. There's a highly identifiable smell. Fish sandwiches, burgers. There's nothing more atrocious than the trapped odors of grease and meat on a plane. That's even worse than snakes even. I actually saw a movie the other night, called Ants on a Plane on Amazon Prime. You want to watch a really B movie, folks. Ants on a Plane. Here's another one. If you can't lift your own bag, if it's too heavy, don't carry it on, folks. I know we're all trying to save baggage fees and different things, so we're packing these carry-ons to a point where they weigh more than ourselves. I was once, I don't know where I was going, but I was sitting in an aisle seat, and a hardtop Samsonite, someone was feebly attempting to hoist into the overhead bin, landed on the top of the head of the man seated in front of me, prompting the anxious person next to me to remark on the near certainty of their death had the man been elderly or a child. We encouraged the man to remain awake for the duration of the flight for fear that he had a concussion or would die from a brain-bleeding episode while pressing a soggy Ziploc bag full of ice to his head. It wasn't a great situation. So if you can't lift these bags, don't carry them on, folks. Here's another one that really rubs me the wrong way. Place your carry-on bag in the bin over your own seat. What's more annoying than boarding a plane to find the overhead bin above your empty seat is already full? It turns out some travelers keep an eye on their bag by storing it one row ahead of where they're sitting. These passengers are afraid someone's going to steal their bag. Yep, at 35,000 feet, they're going to grab their bag, open the emergency exit, and parachute out. I've never heard. Have you ever heard of this, folks? Someone stealing someone's carry-on bag out of the bin? I've never heard of that. It would be pretty noticeable and quickly resolved if someone tried to do it. The problem with this tactic comes when you then have to walk to a different area of the plane to find a free spot and then squeeze your way back to your seat. Then the passenger whose seat is there won't be able to place their bag above them, and the chain reaction continues. If this happens to you, then you'll need to practice Zen and the art of calmly waiting for everyone to get off when the plane lands, rather than shouldering your way down the packed aisle to retrieve your carry-on bag. Folks, put the carry-on bag above the bin of your row. It's very easy. It's not really a complicated formula. Here's another one. Keep out of the aisles, folks. On planes, there's one, maybe two aisles, depending on the size and width of the plane. When you board the plane, try to put the bag up in the overhead cabin bins and sit down in your seat as quickly as possible. It's frustrating for everyone else when you're rifling through your bag looking for something rummaging while everyone else waits with their bags on their shoulders. So before you board, stash what you want for the flight, your laptop, your book, your energy bar, your lip balm, inside the small carry-on that you keep under your feet in the seat in front of you. Stow your bigger bag in the overhead bin, sit down, shut the fuck up, and rummage to your heart's content. Passing gas on a plane. Now, there are only two places that are acceptable to fart on a plane, and that's in the restroom or when you're walking through first class on your way to coach. Those are the only two acceptable places to pass gas. Here's one. People sometimes families travel together. Sometimes they can't get the seats together. Now, are you obligated to offer to switch seats to someone so someone can sit next to a child or an elderly person or a sick person and they're in accompaniment? No, you're not legally obligated, but you're morally obligated, folks. So, yes, if you are preventing a parent from sitting with a child, someone from sitting with their elderly loved one that needs attention, or someone sickly, just do it. Here's one. If you're riding in coach or economy, whatever they call it, don't recline. No, really, folks. Don't be an asshole. Don't recline in coach. The amount of extra comfort you gain, that smidgen of extra comfort you gain, is nothing compared to the chain reaction of pain you have just set off behind you, in which every other passenger in your path, and possibly the person next to them as well, is now subject to hours of discomfort by doing nothing, by saying nothing, or by continuing the chain reaction by reclining their own seat to gain a little room that you just took away from them. If you have the world's most specific back problem and must sit at precisely 110 degrees, 110-degree angle, then turn around and ask the person behind you if it's okay, and give them time to arrange their laptop, their knees, and soul for what you are about to inflict, you heartless son of a bitch. Here's one that's always a debate. Who gets the armrest? And it's everywhere I looked. I researched this shit, folks. I don't just make this stuff up. Everywhere I looked, the middle seat gets both armrests, because the person at the window gets the armrest on the window, and the person on the aisle gets the armrest on the aisle. Both armrests in the middle go to the middle seat. Always and without question. The unlucky soul in the middle seat has one thing going for them, folks: ownership of the middle armrests. At best, maybe you can sort of lean your elbow on the tiny edge of the armrest if you're in the end or the aisle seat. What if they aren't using it? Can I use it? No. The window and aisle already have one each of their very own. The middle seat gets both the interior armrests. You privileged motherfucker. Go back to enjoying your window or breathing room and let the middle guy have his armrest. Now, what if a kid's acting out? Are you allowed to say something to a parent if their child is being obnoxious? Well, here's my theory. You're not allowed to be a dick about a screaming baby. A baby's a baby, folks. Baby can't control its own actions, and hushing it up is no cakewalk. Parents, but if you don't intervene when your sugar-high 5-year-old goes kicking seats and running up and down the aisles, don't be surprised when I turn around and do it for you. So, babies, infants, no. Don't be an asshole. The baby is exposed to different pressures on the plane that maybe he hasn't or she hasn't experienced before. You can't help a baby. 5-year-old high on sugar with the parents not paying attention, go to town. Someone wants to get up. Now, you're in the middle seat or you're in the aisle seat. Someone in your row wants to get up. Either the guy by the window or the middle guy. Don't half stand up when someone needs to get out of the row, forcing them to awkwardly crawl their way past your legs, trying as hard as possible not to touch your body. Stand up like a human being, step out into the aisle, and let them out of their seat. Here's a good one. I hate this. How many times have you been sitting, especially people in the aisle seat, and you feel your whole seat get pulled back? It's from some idiot grabbing the back of every seat when they walk down the aisle. Your fellow passengers don't deserve to be yanked around every time you rise to use the restroom or whatever you're doing. Don't use the back of the seat for momentum on your long crawl to the restroom. If you're wearing a backpack while boarding, take it off and carry it by your side, because as soon as you turn, both your butt and your backpack are going to smack into someone's head. So, a couple of things when walking through the aisles. Don't grab each seat as you're going up and yank on it for momentum, and don't keep your backpack on your back. Carry it in front of you so you have control over it. What about these people who don't know what earphones are? The movie watchers that watch shit on their tablet that they downloaded, and they think the rest of the plane wants to hear the film blaring from their tablet. Invest in some cheap headphones. Earbuds don't cost that much. So if you're flying and you're not watching the in-house movie, if there is one like on JetBlue or whatever airline, invest in a pair of earbuds, please. Now, some social norms seem to cease on planes. I mean, out in society, you're probably frowned upon if it's 8 in the morning and you want to have an alcoholic drink. But on a plane, you can drink at any hour with impunity. Nobody's going to judge you. But remember, folks, your Bloody Mary does double duty at high altitude. Alcohol affects us differently, and it's more potent at a higher altitude than it does on the ground. So take it easy. And don't dare to place your auxiliary cup or drink or food item on your neighbor's tray table if you run out of space on yours. That's just fucking rude. So yeah, drink, have a good time, but don't be an asshole to your neighbor. All right, here's one. You're sitting next to someone sometimes for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, sometimes longer depending on where you're going. If you feel like striking up a conversation, go ahead. You can meet new, sometimes interesting people on a plane, and maybe make the experience of air travel a bit more pleasant. But if the other person is clearly not into it or engaged, just let it go. Many people just want to endure this flight in silence, but will likely be too polite just to ignore you or tell you to shut the fuck up. On the other hand, if someone starts talking to you and you don't feel like chatting, be polite, but make it clear you have other things to do. You can open a book, slowly put your headphones on, or just conk out. Even if you and your neighbor are having a great chat, your neighbors also may not appreciate it, so keep it down or take it to the back of the plane. there's turbulence all the time. You know, climate change is real, whether you want to believe it or not. There's different weather patterns that are crazy all over. But when a plane feels bumpy, don't panic. I don't want to jinx anything, but even bad turbulence, if you have your seatbelt on, it's rough. But I've never heard of a plane, maybe I'm crazy, falling out of the sky from turbulence. So you hit turbulence, make sure you're buckled in, and don't panic and freak everybody out. Stay in your seat and until the pilot says you pass through the turbulence. They usually let you know we're going to be experiencing some turbulence, passing through a weather thing. Just hang in there, folks. I know you have to get up for certain things on a plane, but only get up at convenient times. Think ahead when planning your bathroom breaks. If you see a flight attendant with a cart in the middle of the aisle, stay the hell in your seat. You could easily end up with the cart between you and your seat, depending on the flight attendant, and you'll be stuck in the aisle until service is complete, or delay service to everyone else so the cart can back up and you can sit back down. So try to time it. Say, did we have our drinks yet? Did this happen if there's a meal service? Plan your bathroom breaks accordingly. Now, leg room has gone down significantly. They want to pack many of us into these planes like sardines so they can make more money. Now, there's no leg room anymore. There are seats you could pay for extra leg room on certain carriers. But I just want to remind you folks that the aisle, if you're sitting in the aisle seat, it's not extra leg room for you. You can't angle yourself and put your feet in the aisle. Like I said, we know that airplane legroom is at an all-time minimum, and first-class fares aren't an option for everyone. Upgrades don't happen as much as we would like, but just because you have long legs, does not mean you could stretch them out for the entire flight in the aisle. Moms are rushing kids to the bathroom, flight attendants are trying to bring that drink trolley back and forth, and the tired business traveler is just trying to stretch his legs without tripping over yours. Keep your legs to yourself, and you will be okay. Now, we're talking about legs and feet. Unless something emergency happens to your feet, keep your fucking shoes and socks on if you have them on. Even if you don't wear socks, keep your shoes on. We don't want you to see your bare feet out in the aisle. It may surprise you folks, but a lot of people in this world have unnaturally strong feelings about bare feet. If you have to remove your shoes, if it's a total emergency, keep them out of sight. Don't fall asleep, obviously, with your feet stretched in the aisle. It's your responsibility to remain aware enough to retract them back when someone passes by. Now, the thing about feet, it's not just on a plane, folks. I know open-toed shoes for women are big this time of year. And most women take care of their feet. They go for manicures or pedicures, or they do them themselves at home. But men, even men who think they have beautiful feet, men's feet are disgusting. I see open-toed men's shoes in restaurants. Don't wear open-toed shoes to a restaurant, please. Not just a plane. Restaurants too. Nobody wants to see feet in a restaurant. Just putting that out there, folks. And speaking of manicures and pedicures, this one goes out to the ladies. There's no salon on an airplane. Let me repeat that, ladies. There is not a salon on an airplane. Don't feel like it's your obligation or necessity to start one either. The plane is not where you do your own manicure or pedicure or giving yourself a new hairstyle, hairspray, perfume. Feel free to fix your hair in the bathroom, but not in any communal spaces. You have people brushing hair and doing all these clipping nails at their seat. It's not the time, not the place for it, folks. Do it before you leave the house or when you get to the hotel, wherever you're going or going home. The best part, folks, is to me, when I say best, I'm being a wise ass, is when you land. People all want to rush to the front and cut people when you're getting off the plane. When the seatbelt light turns off, it's like the Kentucky Derby. The gate goes up. There's always that asshole in the back who attempts to charge his way up to wherever his carry-on was stowed. They stow it at the front and then run. Or the asshole who only has a backpack who tries to book it to the front. You wait. You file out in order. Maybe an exception, asking politely if you can go ahead because you have a connecting flight and maybe the flight you're on is running late or something happened. Remember, folks, everyone is as eager to get off that plane as you are. Don't crowd into the aisle if there isn't room, and let everyone ahead of you get out before making a move. You'll have plenty of time to prepare before it's your turn to exit, so make sure you have everything and that you don't take any more time than you need to. And last but not least, folks, germs. If you're sick, don't fly. The small space, I should say, in the plane practically ensures that your germs will spread, even during a short flight. If you cough or if you sneeze on the plane, do so in the crook of your elbow into a tissue or napkin away from everybody. Carry a small container of fragrance-free, I stress that, hand sanitizer, and use it whenever you touch a common area to prevent the spread of germs. Now, I'm crazy. They say those trays in the plane are as dirty as a toilet. I always bring my own wipes and wipe them down. Now, I hate going on airplanes, folks. I have to go in September. My June trip to New York was postponed until September. Looking forward to the trip. I'm dreading the flight. I don't like to fly. I'm not afraid of a crash or anything like that. I just don't like... I always feel like shit when I get off the plane from the altitude and from the germs in there, because you know they're blowing all over the plane through that. You're in a tube with people. Remember, years ago, people smoked in these things. There was a smoking section in a plane. Can you believe that? In a tube, there was actually a smoking section. Well, restaurants were like that too. The smoking section was like 2 tables over from the non-smoking section. Gotta love the 70s and 80s, but and previous to that. But where have we gone as far as air travel, folks? I remember, you see pictures of like air travel in the 60s, and it was so luxurious, wasn't it? Meals, and people thought we were going to be so much more luxurious in the future than we are now. We've really, if there's any one area we've really regressed in, it's air travel. We pack people inside like sardines now. We toss them a bag of Fritos and a can of Coke. And that's it. No meals anymore. No luxurious leg room. No fun experience anymore. It's just, I think this changed a lot after 9/11 with all these fees when the airline supposedly almost went broke and they got bailed out. And now they charge for everything. They charge for everything. Pretty soon they're going to charge you to breathe. There's not going to be any air in the plane. You're going to have to use the oxygen mask, and it's going to be like a meter on that shit. They're going to charge you like 25 cents for every 10 minutes you're on the plane. That's coming, folks. They charge you for everything now. It used to be a nice experience flying, and now I don't know many people that say they like to fly. Years ago, I knew people that said they loved going on the airplane. I don't know many people nowadays that actually say, I'm looking forward to flying, because we're treated like cattle. All they need is that big branding thing for our ass, shh, as we come onto the plane, because we're like cattle in there. We're stuffed into these small little areas. And what about the man spreading? Is that big on? I know it's big on the subway where men can't close their legs. And now if you're in the middle seat, if you're a man in the middle seat, you got to watch that man spreading with your knees to the people on both sides of you. I'll try to be conscious of that when I'm in public places anyway. I probably man spread at home. I'm not realizing it, but I'm in my own little recliner and chair, so I'm not really affecting anybody. But I imagine that that's a problem on the plane too, especially if a man is sitting in the middle seat. But they've taken the leg room away. They've taken the meals away. They've taken everything away. They're charging you for things that you shouldn't be charged for. Again, the weirdest thing to me is your bag can only be on a lot of airlines a certain weight, the check bag, 50 pounds, say. If it's over that, you got to pay a fee. But yet, you can transfer that stuff into your carry-on bag, get it below the 50 pounds and not have to pay the fee. But the plane still weighs the same. You're bringing the same amount of weight on the plane. And then also, wouldn't that mean that you would have to weigh each passenger? If we're talking about weight, if it's these charges are solely because of weight and the fuel cost to ship more weight, then shouldn't we have a scale at the airport and weigh every person that comes in? And the lighter you are, the less you pay. I mean, are we headed in that direction? Since weight seems to be such a big deal on planes with carry-on with checked bags, are we going to be weighing people at the terminal? Because that's where we're headed. Now, how do you guys feel about like a morbidly obese person getting in? Now, the seats, I think the ass space is only, 15 or 16 inches wide now. It's not that big. But how do you guys feel about a morbidly obese, like a real big person getting into a seat and really being on top of you, like, on the plane? Do you feel that they should pay for 2 seats, the seat next to them too, so they're not infringing on anybody? Or do you feel it's just the same as someone bringing a kid on that's going to jump around and annoy people? Because I've sat next to people, and again, I'm not going to fat shame anybody. I'm not exactly in top shape right now, but I always felt that I always ended up, for some reason, every time I get on a plane, sitting next to someone that's very, very, very heavy. I'm talking about really heavy. And they kind of hang over into my seat. And this happens at hockey games, sometimes at baseball games. And you're not going to shame anybody. You're going to be polite and be nice and, not be a mutant. But, sometimes it's very uncomfortable on a 3-4 hour flight. When someone's basically hanging over the armrest onto you, it's very uncomfortable. Now, should these people be told that they have to pay for an extra seat? I know that's been proposed in the past. How do you guys feel about that? So weigh in on our Facebook page. There are a lot of things about air travel, folks, that we could go on for hours and hours and hours about. Now, I wanted to have on this show, but we couldn't make it happen. If you really want to check out a good website or Facebook page, go to Passenger Shaming. I had spoken with the people over at Passenger Shaming. I wanted to have the creator of that site and Facebook page on, and we talked back and forth. But then booking guests, folks, is a pain in the ass on a podcast. People are all gung-ho, and then you don't hear back from them a lot of the time. So it's very hard. I tried to get the Bagel Boss guy on. You guys saw that video that went viral around the country. The guy who went crazy at the bagel store because he's only 5 foot tall. I called him. He said he would get back to me. He didn't. So trying to book guests on this show. I mean, I've had some great ones. Todd from Haunted State, Robbie Dupree. Some people commit and they stick to their word. Other people, you try to get them on, they seem all gung-ho about it, and then and a lot of people in the podcast community go through this because I'm in a lot of groups for podcasters, and we all go through the same thing. So I tried to have the creator of Passenger Shaming on this episode to tell me about her experiences and why she started that site, but never heard back. So after a couple of emails and going back and forth. But do check out Passenger Shaming Facebook page and website. It's a lot of fun. It's people that put up pictures of mutants on planes, people taking their shirts off. There's even a video of a woman drying her panties in the overhead fan air conditioning thing. All kinds of stuff. Crazy, disgusting things that this flight attendant started this website about 7 years ago, or 2013, 6-7 years ago. So check out Passenger Shaming if you're not if you don't like that page on Facebook, or even though they didn't come on the show and kind of left me hanging, I still will say check out their site. So it's tough trying to keep guests on. They say, oh, yeah, well, we'd love to come on, and then you don't hear back. So thanks to all the guests who have come on my show, who stuck to their word, and co-hosts that come down to the studio or even by phone and kept their word. So I appreciate that. But it's not easy every week, folks, coming up with these topics and trying to get guests and having them bail on you at the last second and then trying to reposition. But we make it happen. So I hope you enjoyed our Mutant show here about people flying on airplanes that are mutants and what you can do about it. And again, as I said from the beginning, have you ever been that guy? Have you ever done any of the things that I mentioned? So you may want to reconsider your approach when you're flying. So do you enjoy the podcast? I know many of you do, because we had another record-breaking week. You enjoy our mutant stories and stories of people acting uncivilized in public? Then check out my book, A Whole Lot of Shenanigans. It's available on Amazon and eBay. It chronicles the mutants and the wackos I dealt with down at a courthouse parking lot for 2 years and a couple of months. I think you'll get a kick out of it. Just type in A Whole Lot of Shenanigans in eBay or Amazon search and pick it up. I think you'll really enjoy it. So where are we found? I know people say we're found wherever podcasts are held, but there's so many places and that you are and you aren't. There's so many places now. So let me just go over those quick. We're on iTunes, which may or may not be around much longer, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Radio.com, Radio Public, Stitcher, CastBox, YouTube, or on your Echo device simply by saying, Alexa, play the podcast A Bunch of Malarkey, and she will play the most recent episode. So, folks, I want to thank you all again for tuning in. We continue to have record-breaking weeks and months, so I appreciate that. So, whether your feet are on the ground and you're reaching for the stars, as the legendary Casey Kasem used to say, or you are 35,000 feet above the ground, you still have to beware. And why is that, folks? Because it is indeed a shit show out there. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. Take care, everyone.